So Pep Guardiola thinks it's going to be a tough game, but if you put the two fixtures side by side and Arsenal have to go to Anfield and Manchester City have to go to Southampton, this is as easy as it gets, surely, Sam.
I kind of wrote about this in the week. Like, you'd think from the outside, City have got a bit of a head of steam going now. They're playing the team bottom in the table. Draw your own conclusions. But like Guardiola says, they've had some difficult games there. I'm more confident of Arsenal winning at Anfield than I am of City winning at Southampton. I'm sure they'll do it, but Southampton always make it really difficult. They always cut off the route to Rodri, and then as soon as they let you get the ball to Rodri, if he's on the half turn, they're already cutting off where we can go, and it really disrupts their rhythm. They do it, whoever the manager is, they always seem to be able to do it. And Nathan Jones managed to do it, although City were a bit all over the place, but Nathan Jones managed to do it. Hassan Hall was obviously really good at it. I'm sure Sellers will not just look at what City do, but I'm sure he'll look at what his own group of players have done in the recent past against City. And look, City went there last year in the FA Cup and they won 3 or 4-0, and they can make it easy. But the games we've seen City play really well in recently, against Leipzig, Burnley and Liverpool, they're against teams that have tried to play. But I think if Southampton just sit back, or even not sit back, but they stop City playing and stay compact, there's not going to be that room for City to run and counter-attack and get Haaland or Álvarez or De Bruyne running into spaces. It's just going to be funneling everything narrow, and that's when we start talking about Haaland only having like 14 touches and those shots. It could be one of those types of games if City don't kind of score early and then build on it.
But if Southampton cut off the supply line to Rodri and then his next play, why didn't every team do that?
Yeah, I don't know. But also it was funny because I remember being there last season and thinking it just seems so obvious. Why don't you, Pep, drop another midfielder in alongside Rodri? Yeah. And it gives you two options, kind of like they've been doing with Stones last week in Liverpool. Yeah. And he never did it. But you think, there's literally no way on earth that I've spotted that and he hasn't. So there must be a reason for it. So I don't understand why he didn't do it then. Yeah. And I don't understand why every team does. I don't know. Like, are some teams not equipped to be that proactive and press in midfield, or brave enough, as a manager, not brave enough to leave a bit of space in behind to gamble on the fact that they're not going to be able to put it in behind because they can't play anyway? Like, maybe it comes down to what the manager believes, or, if it's Roy Hodgson, for example, at Crystal Palace, he'd go, well, actually, I'm more comfortable sitting all the way back, and even though this has worked, I'm more comfortable doing it this way. I guess it depends on the manager. What would you do?
Well, if I was a manager going up against City, I'd try and stifle the spaces that they want to operate in the best. And I think you make a decision. You either stop Rodri from playing, or you absolutely leave him. Yeah. I think you don't go in between. So if you go in between, that's when trouble starts to happen. I think the spaces they operate in inside the fullbacks and the midfielders, you need to pack those spaces out. I think you've almost got to start with a back five. Yeah, whatever happens in front of that, you need to pick your fittest players, because it's all about work rate against City.
Can you see anything other than a routine City win?
I can't. I'm much more confident than Sam. Obviously, he seemed really nervous off air about this one as well. but no, I think it will be a routine win for City. I think the form that they're in, the win against Liverpool last week, and obviously with the big Champions League match midweek against Bayern Munich, I think high performance is exactly what they need.
Yeah, well, Pep Guardiola confirmed today that Erling Haaland is available to feature in both this game and that game against Bayern Munich. That's a huge boost to have him back, even though what we saw from Álvarez last week, he actually played really well, didn't he?
Yeah, this is the kind of game where I'm thinking Álvarez might be better suited.
Yeah.
Because then if I don't know, whether they sit back or whether they do their pressing more in the middle or whatever, if you need to start bringing in other players, and the beauty of City with the false nine last season and the overloads they created and the way that Álvarez did that so well last week, and, we talk about, if Haaland isn't getting on the ball, because it's not necessarily always his problem, but sometimes City don't really know how to find him. But then Álvarez just pops up in those spaces that, like Foden was doing last season, or Bernardo Silva, and it just feels so comfortable to them. So if for whatever reason Haaland wasn't quite ready to start, I don't think it would be the end of the world. But then in fact, I was going to say, if it ends up being one of those games where City do get chances on the break, Haaland's more than capable of doing that as well. He's obviously not quite as clinical, but in terms of what he brings to City's game overall, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But then, having said that, they had a very similar kind of game at Leicester earlier in the season when Álvarez played instead of Haaland, and they didn't create an awful lot. And it was that De Bruyne free kick from about 25 yards that won it.
Yeah.
So we don't know yet. We don't know if City are always going to play without Haaland like they did last week, but it was definitely a good sign.